Hi, it's that fantasy chick back again. It's a new week, it's a new stream, and we're going to be talking about the penultimate episode of Flash. It's we're down to this week will be the very last Flash. So we're down to the next to the last Flash. We're talking about that today. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about Powerpuff Girls and the Winchesters. Um, and of course, I have an article, but I'm pretty sure you've heard before that the CW was going to be rebooting the Powerpuff Girls as a live action show. And you've heard me talk about the Winchesters as a spinoff of the Supernatural. And I pretty much watched it because, Superman. Superman was in it. My Superman, Clark Kent, was in it. But alas, they are no more on CW. So let's get the article. Where is it? Here we go. Okay. So Powerpuff Girls reboot, other CW spinoffs are officially dead. The network, known for often questionable takes on established media, kills 4 shows that feel tailor-made for it. The CW is a network that's often taken some strange swings and whose shows like Riverdale or The Winchesters cause no small amount of confusion when they first get announced. When it was revealed in 2020 that the network was aiming towards a live action reboot of the Powerpuff Girls, one of Cartoon Network's most popular animated series back in the day, the reaction was more mixed than usual. Reboots themselves are always crapshoots, and it didn't help that we already had a Powerpuff Girls reboot that didn't go over well. Didn't know about that one. But news on the live action reboot, aka Powerpuff, has been basically non existent since Chloe Bennett left her role as Blossom, commander and the leader of the team, to go do something else. I didn't know she had left. I thought she was still on the show. I had not heard that. But in the midst of the CW's recent string of cancellations, TV Line recently reported that Powerpuff was indeed no more. And that's not the only show that got the axe. Jake Chang, the planned Arrowverse series Justice You, and a woman-led reboot of Legend of Zorro all got cold as well. Network Entertainment president Jake Schwartz was upfront in saying that basically any show that was in the works during the tenure of his predecessor, Mark Pedowitz, no longer exists. We've already given those back to their respective studios, he confirmed, adding that they're free to develop those shows and sell them anywhere. Whenever there's a change of regime, they always axe those shows or movies. They never want to carry over what someone else was developing. In case you've forgotten, Powerpuff's elevator pitch from Jennifer's body scribe Diablo Cody was that Blossom, Bubbles, Dove Cameron, and Buttercup Yana Perot would be 20-somethings pissed off that they never got to grow up as normal kids. Beyond the additional casting of Donald Faison as Professor Drake, Utonium, and Nicholas Podany as Jojo's son, Joseph. No, seriously. It wasn't long before it was announced in 2021 that the project would be retooled. Between then and now, news broke that original series creator Craig McCracken was developing a second for him, but technically third, animated Powerpuff Girls animated series, along with a reboot of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. At time of writing, it doesn't sound like either of those projects have gotten the axe. As for the other shows, there really hasn't been any real news about them prior to their cancellations. The Zorro show's big claim to fame is it ha- is it had Robert Rodriguez attached to it, and it was an idea he's had in his head for years that was at one point meant for NBC. Just as you would have seen David Ramsey's John Diggle recruit a group of metahumans to go undercover in college while teaching them to master their powers. This would have been John Diggle's show. I've been begging for John Diggle to have his own show. Of course, he would have been teaching some teenagers, but still, it would have been John Diggle's show. And Jake Chang was an extension of Archie Comics' TV universe, with the titular Jake being a teen investigator operating out of Chinatown. Each of these shows getting canceled only underlines how much the CW is changing now that it's under new management. Who knows if they would have been good, but in some way they are CW shows, and it may be that this particular network is the only way they would have seen the light of day at all. Okay. A Powerpuff prequel either. I hadn't heard about any of the only thing I've heard about was this Powerpuff live action show. CW might have dodged a bullet with this one. I just don't see it being good. I don't know. Maybe I'm hating. Oh, but you were down for Donald Faison as the professor. That was very interesting. I think I would have been interested in seeing what he would have done with that. I definitely. I don't know. Maybe let me go back and see. They definitely was. He was. What do you call it? Developing another show, but what that show was, I can't remember already, and I just read it. Yeah, it doesn't say if it was a prequel. It just says that series creator Craig McCracken was developing a second for him, but technically a third animated Powerpuff Girls animated series, along with a reboot for Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It doesn't say prequel. It just says another series. So, yeah. I don't think it. I know it doesn't say it was a prequel, but that would have been interesting. That would have been interesting. I hadn't heard that Chloe Bennett had stepped away from the Powerpuff Girls, so I guess that was the first nail in its coffin. But I'm sad about the Justice U. I guess they were getting rid of all of the Arrowverse things, even though they still mention John Diggle and Superman and Lois. So he still exists within that universe. So we could still see John Diggle on that show sometimes. But I had really wanted him to have his own show. And even though he still would have been serving, he would have been kind of like, I guess, Alaric is on that. What's that show? That spinoff of the Vampire Diaries show with the kids, the witchy kids. Legacies. He would have been like Alaric on Legacies, but maybe he would have still had a bigger role. So, but I'm sad. So no John Diggle show. This is it. You know, once the Flash is gone, the Arrowverse is gone, and they're talking about taking Superman and Lois and putting it on HBO Max or Max, just Max, because it's kind of a expensive show to produce. It's an expensive show for CW to produce. So instead of canceling it, they may switch it over to HBO, which would be very interesting to see how that would change the show. If they put it on Max and it becomes a Max original, will they keep it network wholesome, or will the show change? I wonder. So that will be very interesting if they do go along with switching Superman and Lois to Max. So that will be interesting. So yeah, so yeah. So last week's episode of The Flash. We're down to the last two episodes. We're at the penultimate episode. The second to the last episode. We're dealing with Barry got sent to the future. He's sent to 2049. And in the future, you see Eddie Thawne and immediately, it sort of picks up where he left off in the cemetery, and a singularity opens up in the sky and takes the police captain out of the cemetery and takes her right into the sky. And I forget where he goes. I think he goes from there to the Flash Museum. And that's when I realized he's in the future. I think that's when I realized he's in the future. Because up until then, I had no idea where he was. I thought he was in the same timeline. I thought he was in the present. I did not realize that he was in the future until he goes to the Flash Museum. When he goes to the Flash Museum, then I'm like, okay, he's in the future. So he goes to the Flash Museum, and he sees that his sacrifice meant Diddley, and the Reverse Flash still existed after he killed himself. So that kind of pissed him off. And another singularity opens, and he sees this version of a daughter that he could have had with Iris had he not killed himself and had he married Iris, like that would have happened. But anyway, it was like Iris was destined to be Iris West Allen. But Superman and Lois would definitely be better for you with Max. Granted, you've only seen one episode. Okay. Yeah, Cecile's breakdown. But I get where she's coming from, because she's doing everything she can to hold her family together. And she goes from seeing them every weekend to seeing them twice a year. She feels like a failure. So she's one of those things. there's this thing with mothers. I'm not a mother, but I know a lot of mothers, and they have this thing where they feel they feel a lot of pressure, especially working mothers. Working mothers feel a lot of pressure, um, trying to work and to provide for their child and taking care of their children. And a lot of times they feel like failures if they're not doing, if everything isn't perfect, they feel like a failure. And no matter how much you try to tell them, no, you're not a failure, they still feel that way. And da 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 da. Round and round it goes. But she was experiencing that working mother, trying to juggle it all and have it all. And she was feeling like, okay, she was succeeding in her work, but she was failing as a mother because she was barely seeing her child. So that's a very real thing that, women experience, but men hardly do, because they get to have it all because they have the women to go through all those pains and frustrations. We're not going to go through that. So anyway, so yeah, so Eddie Thawne sees his little blonde Nora, thinking, the negative speed force shows him blonde Nora, like that would ever happen. Um, because even if he would have stayed alive, Iris was destined to break up with him, because she was destined to figure out that Barry was the Flash. And the moment she figured out Barry was the Flash, she would have broke up with him and would have got with Barry, which is what happened on the show anyway. The moment I think she got with Barry. It's been so many years, but I know she got with Barry the moment she figured out he was the Flash. Definitely was with him by then. Group chat. Hey, if you see. But the thing with that is they don't realize, because I don't think anybody realize. I don't know if anybody remembers. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Oh, I picked up this blue crystal, and all of a sudden this happens to me. So I don't know how much they realize the blue crystal is, or maybe they do. Maybe they do, because the blue crystal keeps disappearing after these people have been possessed by the negative speed force, and it disappears to go somewhere else. But yeah, yeah, the negative speed force, Nora almost had him, but then Barry shows up and speeds him away. And they have this little conversation where Barry basically figures out that the negative speed force brought him back to life so that he could be the negative speed force's avatar. But he has to be the one to he has to accept it, whereas the speed force is able to possess, all these other people's body. He can't just go and possess Eddie Thawne's body. Eddie has to willingly accept the negative speed force into him in order for him to become the negative speed force's, permanent avatar. So they have that conversation, and then, like, while they're in the middle of them discussing that, Barry hears a possessed Nora, because Nora picks up the blue crystal, of course, and becomes possessed by the. She had picked up. Oh yeah, she had picked up this negative speed force, and she had been talking into Eddie Thawne's ear. That's when Barry sped him away. She'd been talking into this Eddie Thawne's ear and was telling him all this stuff about how, oh, you could have been good. You you could have been great, but you killed yourself, and da, 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 and you could have been this. You could have had a family. You could have been this. Da, 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 da. You need to make up for that. Become this negative speed force and da da da. Become great. Blah 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 blah. So Barry speaks him away. They have the conversation. Then Nora sort of calls out Barry, and Barry goes to confront Nora. And while he's confronting Nora, Eddie goes to see Iris. And he has this conversation with Iris. And at first, he's going the right way, like, I just want to see you, like, one last time. I have to do the right thing, da 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 da. Then he sees a picture of her and Barry and they two kids, and then Negative Speed Force, of course, changed it to a picture of him, her, and Nora. And so that gets into his mind, and now all of a sudden, he, instead of doing the right thing, he wants that family. He wants to change the timeline. And Iris is like, yeah, even if you had lived, I still would have gotten with Barry anyway. I love Barry. I love my life with Barry. I want to be with you. And so that pisses him off. And I forget what happens. I forget what happens. He eventually leaves. He's like, I'll show you. And he goes to his, he leaves and goes to his lab. Well, Barry told him that he doesn't necessarily have to go back to being dead. That, I mean, there are a bunch of scientists that can figure out how to keep him alive. He didn't have to become the avatar to stay alive. So they weren't telling him to, okay, you have to go back to being dead. Barry was like, we can find a way to save you without you becoming the avatar. But that, the negative speed force was getting into his head and telling him, oh, it's lies, lies. He's lying to you and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. So, yeah. So, but he did save Barry's life to come back to Barry living the life that he left behind. Because before he killed himself, he was engaged to Iris. And he comes back and Barry's married to Iris and about to have a baby. So, or actually he comes back and Barry's married to Iris and have two kids with her. So Barry got his life that he thought he was going to have with Iris. So, yeah. Yeah, that was kind of bogus in his view, but it was going to happen anyway. Sorry, Eddie. Sorry to that man, but it was going to happen anyway. So he goes back to his lab and he starts having this conversation with the negative speed force, and negative speed force starts telling him about all the things that could happen and can be put in place if you just accept me and blah 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 blah. And so at the same time, you have to deal with Cecile. And Cecile, projecting her past consciousness into her future consciousness body. So she can help out Barry in the future. And the first time she did it, she saw that she had only seen Joe and the little baby, I forget the baby's name, but Joe and the baby twice in the last year, and that sort of freaked her out, and she was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this." So Chester had to talk her down off the ledge, and it was like, you are a good mother, you're this, you're that. You probably had good reasons for not seeing them. You don't know what's been going on. So you can't just judge yourself by this tiny little window of your life. You can't just judge your whole life by this tiny little thing that you've seen of it. So that got her off the ledge and let her go back into her future consciousness, to go back and to help Barry. And this time, like after Barry has been um, facing off with Nora, and Nora's about to knock him out with a car. She got him down on the ground and about to smash a car over his head. Then she comes. Then Cecile. I'm about to say all the wrong names. Cecile comes back. Cecile comes back as Virtue, and knocks her out of the way, and then she just straight skeets the negative force out of Nora's body, and then of course the blue crystal um, gets falls to the ground but disappears before they can pick it up, or before they can do anything with it. So then after that, Barry goes and he's talking with Iris. He's talking with 2049 Iris, old Iris. He's asking her about their life, are they happy, da da da. And, they trying to have this little sentimental conversation. And of course, Barry's yanked out of that conversation and torn away yet again. We don't know where he's been. One episode he was sent to the past. One episode he made it back to the present long enough to see his wife go into labor and then get yanked out again. And now this episode he was sent to the future. Where is he going? Is he going back to the present? Back to her about to give birth? What's going on? Where is he going? Is he sending him to another part of the timeline? Is he going to send him back to the past where he first becomes the Flash? I don't know. I don't read spoilers, so I don't know. I don't know. Whatever it is, I can say he wrong either way. He's wrong. I can say he's wrong. I'm going to say it. He's wrong. Just because Barry did end up with a life that he was supposed to lead, the fact of the matter is Iris told him straight out, I would have chose Barry. Even if you had lived, I was going to choose Barry. It's still Iris's choice who she was going to be with, Barry or Eddie. And either way, she would always chose Barry. So he was wrong. She was always going to choose Barry. Yeah. Yeah, her name was Virtue. Yes, I did a long time ago saying they were probably going to end the series with the baby being born. So looks like I was right. They're gonna somehow have to fight the negative speed force, Eddie Thawne as the negative speed force. And I didn't see all this, but I went back and I saw I saw that when he went back into his lab and when he accepted the cobalt crystal, inside of it he saw Zoom, the Reverse Flash, Savitar, and Godspeed waiting for him. Meaning, are we going to see all these people next week? Will we see? So will he have to deal with the negative speed force, Zoom, Reverse Flash, Savitar, and Godspeed all next week, all while his wife is trying to give birth? Like, she got enough to deal with already. That's gonna send her blood pressure sky high. Oh my goodness, wouldn't want to be her. But yeah, so poor Iris, poor Iris. She's got to go through childbirth, and she's got to wonder where her husband is, and if he's being murdered at the same time she's trying to give birth to their child. I feel for her. Next week is gonna be good. Next week, if they do what they're teasing, if they bring back all of those bad guys that they teased last week and the Avatar and have all of that all while Iris is in labor, and they deal with all of this in the present. So they'll be dealing with all of this in the present while Iris is trying to give birth. That will be that was crazy. Iris was the only one who looked older. Nobody looked older. Cecile, who should have been, who was the oldest out of all of them, did not look a day older. They changed Allegra's hair, but that's about it. Chester, they did absolutely nothing to change him. He looked the same. Everybody looks the same. 26 years on, except for Iris. Iris is the only one she has some gray in her hair to make her look 26 years older. But everybody else looked the same. That was kind of bogus. And Barry was on the moon or something, so we didn't see what they would have done to age him. That was kind of bogus. Okay. So next week's gonna be good, but it's also gonna be emotional because it's the very last one. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. And it's also it in another world it would have been leading into a trilogy of a brand new trilogy of the Flash. So it would have been the TV Flash ends and the movie Flash begins, but we're gonna get one movie Flash, and then the only way we're gonna get another Flash is it's gonna have to be completely rebooted. So that's just it. We're gonna end TV Flash. We will get the movie Flash a couple of weeks later. A couple of weeks later, we'll have the movie. But after that, that's pretty much it for the Flash. That will be Winchesters still have on the same shirt. Oh, that's just emotional because this is really it. It is very emotional. It's very emotional. I'm emotional just thinking about it. I'm emotional just thinking about. I'm emotional thinking about the fact that this was supposed to be leading into a trilogy of movie flashes, and now that's not going to happen. So this is over. We get one Flash movie. This is it. This is all. This is all. So, but but the good thing is, like I said, the movie Flash will happen just a couple of weeks after TV Flash is over. So we won't have a long wait for the movie Flash. And um, I'm gonna watch it. Some people are gonna boycott it. Some people are not gonna see it, but I'm gonna watch it. There's other people in that movie. They got Michael Keaton in that movie. I'm gonna watch it. I'm watching it. So I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding that movie. It's a lot of controversy surrounding a couple of the DC movies. But I'm watching that one. It's just one movie. They don't spend all this money making it. I'm gonna go see it. So that is all for today. I am a ninja. That's how I dodge it. When it comes on the TV, well, like I said, I um I already mute all commercials. I mute all commercials, and I mute. I haven't been on Twitter like I normally do, so I haven't even muted it on Twitter. If I was on Twitter, I would have muted the Flash on Twitter, but I haven't muted it on Twitter because I haven't been on Twitter like that. But I mute all commercials. And when I go to the movies, I have, like, when the trailers show, I have my headphones in my ears so I don't look at trailers in the movies. So when I don't watch the trailers in the movies, I be straight up. I be watching YouTube while the trailers play until till they start playing the when they start playing Nicole Kidman. That's when I stop watching YouTube and take out my headphones. And and that's how I keep from seeing trailers. Trailers in the movies, trailers in TV, trailers on the like on YouTube. Pretty much all trailers on YouTube are skippable. So I'm only going to see a couple of seconds before I skip it. So it's a skill that I've developed. I've developed a skill over the past decade or so, and it's become second nature now. You got to practice it. It's become second nature for me now. But I am very diligent. I'm very diligent. But yeah, so that is all for today. I don't know if let's see if there's going to be a new Superman and Lois Tuesday. Let's see. What is it doesn't say. It doesn't say when the next episode. Normally it's supposed to say next episode. Yes, there's going to be a new episode tomorrow. So this Wednesday, we'll be talking about Superman and Lois. And as always, on Friday, there'll be a video. So I watched Dungeons and Dragons this weekend again too because it was on Paramount Plus. So I watched it this weekend, and I'm probably going to be watching it again this week. But yes, happy that it's on Paramount Plus. Um, but yeah, so okay, so that is all for now. But in the meantime, thanks for watching.